why isn't this on the news every night?
And now the floodgates are open. Credible sources, including former high-ranking intel officials, have corroborated that the U.S. military is in possession of at least a dozen alien spaceships. A dozen.
No wonder people don't trust the
And
government.
reportedly, both our government and private aerospace companies are trying to reverse engineer the ships.
Get your government to do what it's supposed to do and find out what this is. Wake up. This is real. Wake up.
Elizondo's investigation has found a link between UFOs and U.S. nuclear assets.
We seem to see these things around U.S. nuclear equities. Nuclear power, nuclear weapons, and nuclear technology. There definitely seems to be some sort of correlation.
We really have no idea what we're dealing with. Tell me what you experienced back in 1980.
We were having our Christmas party. The on-duty police lieutenant came in, white as a sheet, and he said, "We saw lights in the forest. There was something out there. We don't know what it was, so we came to get you."
Halt led a team into nearby Rendlesham Forest and began recording what he was experiencing on a small tape recorder.
The object comes into the forest a bit, and it moves horizontally through the trees, avoiding the trees, obviously under some type of intelligent control.
Soon the lights were right on top of them, leaving Halt and his men paralyzed with fear.
The beam is not like an ordinary light. It doesn't radiate. It was like a laser beam. It was focused. It landed right 10, 15 feet away from us at our feet. It wasn't a comet. It wasn't a meteor. I mean, three of them moving in synchronization. They weren't coming down. They were moving in the sky. I'm thinking, is this a warning? Is this a weapon? Or is this some kind of communication? I couldn't believe what was happening.
Halt drafted a memo detailing the events in Rendlesham Forest.
I wrote the infamous memo and kind of cleaned it up a little bit. I didn't call it UFOs, I called it unexplained lights.
And locals would come forward to bolster Halt's account that something strange had happened.
The closer it got, the more I realized it was not an aircraft.
I blinked and it was gone.
Lou Elizondo is meeting with an Air Force veteran who served under Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt during the Rendlesham UFO event in 1980.
It was Christmas night, came on duty at 2300. When I went down to the staging area, Halt was out in the forest.
Okay.
If you listen to the Halt tape, you'll hear my name on it.
What is it? We don't know, sir. And two other personnel requesting to randomly change their location. Tell them negative at this time. We'll tell them when they can come out here.
Later that night, another set of lights appeared. This time, Burroughs and another military policeman, Sergeant Jim Peniston, were sent into Rendlesham Forest.
This orange light all of a sudden appeared in the distance and started coming down. We were in a clearing area. I'm like, I'd like to get a closer look. The sergeant that was with me, he looked at me and he says, "Go for it." As we started moving towards it, it looked like it started moving towards us.
As they approached the light, Burroughs says it suddenly flew over him and his partner.
Whatever it was came over the top of me. I phased away and was gone.
So let me see if I've captured this correctly. Just remember coming there and then all of a sudden, bam, gone. And then all of a sudden, he tells you that you were here and you basically disappeared.
And then I was back. We start walking back, and there's where it even gets stranger. Neither one of us remember anything till the next day.
That's very interesting.
This is from 1985.
And interviewed scores of government eyewitnesses.
These go way back.
And these are reports of reported incidents.
UFO incidents. This is from way back in 1948. That's over Los Alamos. Another unknown object in New Mexico.
Interesting.
That's during the Manhattan Project.
I had more than a dozen people who had worked out there at the test site during the height of the above-ground testing period who said UFOs were commonplace. There were employees assigned to monitor UFO activity in connection with the tests. Sometimes they'd appear before the tests, oftentimes they'd appear after it, and once in a while they would appear during these tests. All of the nuclear facilities, Los Alamos, Livermore, Sandia, Savannah River, all had UFO incidents.
This says if it's firmly indicated there is no domestic explanation, the objects are a threat and warrant more active efforts at identification and interception. In Minot Air Force Base, UFOs appear over these missiles. Something enables the missile and it's ready to go.
In 1966, military personnel say a UFO appeared over Minot Air Force Base, 75 miles from Larry Gessner's sighting. They claim one of Minot's nuclear missiles allegedly activated as a UFO hovered above, then deactivated when it disappeared. A year later, a similar incident allegedly happened at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. Military personnel there say a glowing red, oval-shaped object hovered over its missile silos, and all 10 of the base's nuclear missiles were disabled.
Each missile had an 800 kiloton nuclear weapon. I see this glowing red object. All 10 missiles were disabled, every single one of them.
Another missile launch crew at Malmstrom Base reports seeing the same strange lights. And seconds later, their nuclear warheads also go offline.
All 10 of their missiles went down while a UFO was overhead. All 10 of our missiles went down. UFO was immediately over our facility. This was extraterrestrial in nature. I honestly believe that.
David D. Schindley, Captain, U.S. Air Force, retired. In 1966, I was involved in an incident while stationed at Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota. I was told to never speak of the incident again, and also told that as far as I was concerned, it never happened. Because of that, I am before you today with a bit of trepidation. I must say a lot of trepidation, as I have never before shown my face in person on this matter.
On the night of October the 24th, 1968, at Minot Air Force Base in Minot, North Dakota, Airman First Class Mike O'Connor was dispatched to make a routine repair at one of the missile sites.
We made our turn to come down the road to the missile site, and out of the corner of my eye, I observed what I thought was a farmer's yard light, but it looked awful bright. And as we proceeded down the road, the object appeared to lift off the ground and parallel us down the road until we came to the missile site, at which point we got out of the truck and it just kind of hovered there.
Staff Sergeant Bill Smith was in charge of security for 10 nuclear missiles. That night, he reported seeing strange objects.
These objects would rise, they would speed up, they would slow it down, they would hover, they would dart very quickly one way or the other. We were just not really sure that these were things that we could explain.
Captain Brad Runyon was the B-52's co-pilot.
The air traffic controller asked us if we would mind going out to this one area and looking for something. I was curious, and I said, well, what are we looking for? And they said, well, you'll know it if you find it.
The navigator on the B-52, Captain Patrick McCaslin, suddenly identified an object on his radar screen.
I saw a return, faint one sweep, bright the next, large, off our right wing, 3 o'clock, at about 3 miles. And at that point, I asked the radar navigator to turn on the camera, which would then take pictures of whatever was on the radar screen.
These pictures of the radar screen show the object flying in formation with the B-52.
This thing was climbing out with us and maintaining the same heading we were. That was unusual. But what really watered my eyes when this thing backed away and allowed us to turn inside of it.
When the object suddenly disappeared from the radar, the bomber turned back to find it. Co-pilot Runyon was the first to spot what appeared to be a glowing craft hovering near the ground.
When things like that are happening, it seems like time just stands still.
Co-pilot Runyon and the other crew members of the B-52 reported their sighting when they returned to the base. According to Blue Book's investigation, the crew of the B-52 and 16 witnesses on the ground said they saw a UFO that night. In its final report, Blue Book concluded that they were all seeing stars.
No wonder people don't trust the government.
They don't know what's causing it. They don't know how to stop it. That puts it all on the line. That tells you how serious this matter is. Just think about this synopsis. At the facilities where we were first designing and building nuclear weapons, there were UFOs. At the facilities where we were testing the weapons, there were UFOs. At the bases where we deployed those weapons, on the ships, the nuclear submarines, all those places, all the people working there have seen these things. Are they all crazy? Because if they are, they shouldn't have their hands on nuclear weapons.
Agreed.
Now that the truth is out, that the government has been deceiving the public, and not just our government, the governments around the world. So I've concluded, I don't know what you think, but it's all about who can create the most advanced weapon, whether that is nuclear or biological. It's all about power. While we're so interested in capitalizing off of these other species' technology, something or someone is sizing us up globally. Whatever these things are, has been at the military bases around the world, and particularly the United States and Russia, which are the nuclear powers of the world. If they are able to dismantle our militaries, what can we do? Stay prayed up, y'all. Prepare.